Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, I break down my mix for the Resider song, Backfire. All right, so it's been a hot minute since I have done a mix breakdown, and I thought we would go ahead and dive into a particular mix that I think is worthy of both our times. This is a song called Backfire from the band Resider. This song is included on their recent EP that came out a couple of months ago called the Shade EP. And this is just a really, really fun song. And it also had some challenges, which I'll talk about in just a second, for me personally. But overall, this is a really, really fun song that I had the huge pleasure to co-write with the band as well. It's just a ton of fun. This is a very special song for me personally. Let's dive into the mix. Now, it's important to note, or it's important for me to note, that I was in the middle of renovating and rebuilding my home studio when I had to do this mix for the band, and thusly, I was forced to do this entire mix on my Odyssey LCD2 headphones with a Universal Audio Apollo X4, and I was basically at my kitchen table mixing this and just hoping it sounded okay. And that in and of itself is incredibly nerve-wracking, but we did it. I did it, and I subsequently had to do it 2 more times for 2 other songs on the EP as well. Turned out fine. Yeah, just something I thought I would note. It's not the tools, it's the carpenter, as they say. So let's go ahead and hear a little bit of this mix. I'll just play it from the beginning, and then we're going to break down parts of the mix, including the most bonkers riff ever. The main riff of this song is absolutely crazy.
Can I break everything? I know you just drown out the noise, 'cause you're just too caught up in your own world to say it. Never, never make me believe this.
Sick song. Riff is so good. So this song began life at the Vibratorium, my dear friend Joey Bradford's home studio, and that main riff, which we'll get to in just a second, that took 3 people to track that main riff, working all the pedals. Crazy. So let's start with the beginning of the song. Really, it comes in with drums, and it comes in with vocals. Let's go ahead and isolate those 2 elements. And really what Will wanted is the vocal hook to kind of fade in slowly, so it does start quiet. But here's what those 2 sound like just by themselves. The drums sound fantastic. This was actually one of the first tracks I really deep dove as far as phase alignment for the overheads and the rooms. The drums were recorded by Clarity Recordings. Shout out, because he always just does such a great job tracking drums. I have comped and cooked all of these down because I was on my MacBook on my kitchen table and I was trying to save processing power. But basically, the snare is a layering of the real snare, of course, top, bottom, parallel compression, and then a sample underneath to get that sustain that you lose when you typically gate the snare, because you don't want all that cymbal bleed, etc., etc. Let's listen to the overheads. So the room that they tracked the drums in, the physical room itself was not as big as I would like it. I want a big drum room, right? But it sounded very, very clean. And I remember thinking like, oh, these need to be dirtied up. So I added decapitator on the rooms, which isn't something I normally do, but I really felt like it needed it. And then I followed it up with taking off some of the high end. So let's turn the rooms. Let's solo the rooms, and I'm going to turn decapitator on and off, and you're going to kind of hear what I'm talking about, because I think it just really needed it. Check this out. It's kind of blowing it up a little bit, but in the context of the drums, I thought that was just killer. You can kind of hear it. You can kind of hear it lift when I add that to the whole drum picture. It's just really, really nice. Overheads, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm doing normal moves. I'm taking away some of the kick in the overheads. I'm adding a little bit of top end, and it was a little quacky. I dipped some of the mid-range, compressing, and then soothing, just to smooth out the cymbals a little bit. Next, the bass guitar, just MIDI bass. So let's talk about some of these guitars. So the guitars are quad tracked, and it was a combination of one stereo pair of the Bogren Digital BDM 800 Bad Boy, and then that was layered with, underneath is sitting the Bogren Digital 410, the JVM, right? So basically these guitar tones are Marshalls. It's mostly the Bad Boy. Those are layered. Let's take off everything but Cornif Audio amplified instrument processor. The insufferable mid-range, I am a staunch user. Every guitar tone, this goes on first. I then come in with Fab Filter Pro Q4 for fine tuning. And then I come in with L1 limiter from Cornif Audio. And then I also come in with Cornif Audio's Wow Thing. This was a massive game changer. Check out the context of the mix without the wow, just the Wow Thing. This is crazy. There's a to it. Now, let's go ahead and add the Pro Q4, right? So the wow thing is off. Now let's go ahead and start adding the rest of the plugins back in. The limiter is there just to kiss, just to give it a little hey grandma, because I want to keep these quad tracked sub-octave guitars in check, but I don't want to keep crushing them, all right? I do want that dynamic and I do want the bigness of the actual played part, but I'm using L1 to just kiss that little top. As you can see, I'm barely even doing anything with this. So we had a Talon Audio noise pedal that you're hearing into a Digitech whammy being used to drop the octave and then turn off, or turn back up and then turn off along with the noise, all right? That's what you're hearing. There's 3 things happening at once. Absolutely crazy. Think about that now when you hear the main riff. Absolutely nuts. Quad tracked and all. Amazing part. Also, it's the riff of the year in my opinion. So let's move on to some of the other parts. There's synths parts. I'm gonna make these tracks bigger. So how I normally handle synths is like this. I have them all going into a single bus, because typically when you get synths from a band, they're not looking for you to go ahead and change their synth sounds. There's not a lot to do there, but what you are doing is frequency managing. And to that end, I have Oak Sound Bloom, and this is off. I don't know if I ended up using this, a clipper. Yeah, I don't think I had this on here. I think this was here for something else. And then Pro C, I am side chaining this to the kick drum because there's a lot of low end stuff here. Let's solo this stuff. You can see the side chain to the kick just because I want that kick to have all the room it needs. But otherwise, I'm not doing a ton to the synths, with the exception of, what is this? It's part of the chorus. It's following the vocal lead. Boom. Next, I'd basically do the same thing with the effects. This would be impacts, claps, things like that. Everything goes to its own bus, and I just process here on the bus. And I am sidechaining to the kick, probably sidechaining, yeah, to the snare. And then I'm coming in, and I want to keep everything, because this is where all the dynamic stuff is going to be, right? All the real fast transient stuff. I want to keep all of that in check. So let's look at... Lots of layers going on.
Self-confidence like walls decay. Brick by brick, you can't relate to anyone or just too caught up in your own world to say it. Never, never make me believe this.
Okay, so now let's dive into some of the vocal stuff. Really, I'm doing the same thing I am doing for all of the, all of the effects and synth tracks as well. I'm kind of just processing these locally on the track itself as needed, and then everything is going to a single Vox bus. In parallel to that, I have my vocal comp, vocal verb, vocal delay, vocal effects, and vocal wide auxiliary inputs, just so I can use them for whatever I need to vocally. And then all of these are being routed to a vocal master, all right? So my vocal comp for parallel compression is universal audio distressor. Vocal verb is Seventh Heaven, which is based on a Bricasti M7. Next, we have Echo Boy for the delays. This is just a real clean ping pong that preset that I modified. Widener, in case I want something to send to this that I want super wide. And then, that was effects. A Widener effect. And then an actual Widener, which is JST Side Widener 2, which is no effects like chorusing to get the width. That is just straight width, all right? So, let's go over some of the vocals. Most of these vocals were processed using basically the same thing. Pro Q4, an 1176, and a BX clipper to take off just some of the pokiness resulting in compressing with the 1176. Nothing crazy, but this is kind of, I don't know, it's not quite a de-esser, but it's effectively doing the same thing. Because Will tracks all that stuff anyway. He uses a Neumann U87 to track, so he's got it on lock.
You take away these feelings of self-confidence like walls decay. Brick by brick you can't relate to anyone or anything. You thrive on pain and playing the victim. So why can't I break everything? I know you just drown out the noise, 'cause you're just too caught up in your own world to say it. Never, never make me believe this.
Now let's talk about the vocal bus itself. What I'm doing is I have a multi-band compressor, Fab Filter, Pro MB. This is just to generally keep everything kind of in check, the highs and lows. I have an Oxford inflator. This is going to add upward compression and saturation. I'm then coming in with a Kazrog K-Clip 3. Again, I want to keep the transients in check. I don't want pokiness sticking out of the mix, right? I don't want plosives. I don't want artifacts poking out. Now, I am doing this, usually I'm doing this as sparingly as possible.
So why can't I break everything? I know you just drown out the noise, 'cause you're just too caught up in your own world to say it. Never, never make me believe this.
So on the Vox Master, all I have going on is a little bit more de-essing. I have spiff, and then I have a slight bit of widening on all the vocals, just to give it a little bit more width. And then on the band bus, all I have going on is the SSL bus compressor, followed with a Universal Audio Pultec EQP1. That's all that's going on for the bus. And then everything is going to a mix master, right? This is effectively the actual 2-bus. We have a UTA Unfairchild, Oxford inflator, Bloom, and God Particle. I don't normally use that. That's weird. And some cleanup.
This
cleaning up some rumble. And that is Resider's Backfire. This was a lot of fun to mix and kind of spend some time on. It was weird sitting at my kitchen table with my headphones, kind of just like, okay, I hope this actually translates, because I have no idea what I'm doing for headphones. It was very disorienting, being forced to do just headphones the entire time. You had no monitors, no air moving at you, and it was just such a weird experience. But there you go. If you'd like to hear this or anything else from Resider, I will link down below in the descriptions. Shout out to them for letting me use this song for this mix breakdown video. And with that, you've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.